Canonical feats I've... Cat, did something just happen? I guess I'll say it again. I've been really getting into canonical feats and some character abilities over the past couple of weeks. It's very interesting to see what some authors can come up with as creative solutions to some stories' endings. But once you go down that rabbit hole, your world changes forever. What is the canonical strength of Michael Jordan?
We all love our characters. Everyone's got one. Makoto Nijima, Ochako Uraraka, Biggie Cheese, Muck from Bob the Builder, Sasuke, She-Hulk. Everyone experiences characters in their own bubble and come to love them when they overcome hardship. It makes us identify with them and we grow attached to them and their accomplishments. The only other way we can feel validated by watching 500 episodes of a, let's admit it, pretty 7 out of 10 anime is to try and say its main monkey can beat a white man, which also happens to be an alien. Yeah, that's pretty par for the course. Oh, an alien landed on Earth! What's its name? Oh, it's Keith. Matching characters against one another in a death match. I mean, it's likely that you've heard the Goku vs. Superman stuff, but there are whole communities online that do this for every character from any type of series you can imagine. They try to make sense of character abilities with science and rank characters and their ability based off of their feats, or things they've done, such as their durability, their lifting strength, their speed. Just don't go down that Kirby rabbit hole. It's fun! Until it isn't. Don't get me wrong, it's cool to speculate with friends on what characters can do, it's fun to imagine, but it can get super taken seriously and people get insulted because you didn't know the density of Luigi. I'm more so in the camp that breaking down these characters with real-world science and trying to find objective truths of their abilities sort of goes against the actual nature of these characters as well as the function they have in stories. To me, these arguments can go on forever because it's trying to turn literature into science. And when you have to interpret some things from literature, that's where a lot of the argument can come in. It's the same for games too. Many games base their characters' abilities and their goals on the design of the gameplay. This is to say, if these stories in games were as realistic as the real world, besides, it's often stories that allow characters to be strong. It's all about context. And to me, that can often lead to more interesting battles. Like, I keep going back to it, but matching Goku and Superman and saying that they would fight to the death goes against a lot of what these characters stand for. I'm sure Goku would want to spar with Superman and Superman would be nice about it, but they wouldn't fight to the death. Thematically, it doesn't make sense. And then those characters that are fighting just wouldn't be them. So this leads to the question, the most powerful character in fiction, RelaxAlax? Is that really a good look, Chief? You dropped this, exiled king. Did someone have a vibe check in your cereal this morning? I thought your cat was the strongest character in fiction.
He is the most powerful character in fiction.
But also, we can discuss one of my favorite series that has some of the most powerful abilities I've ever seen in fiction. Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. I'll give you a moment to clear out. Don't worry, I'm not going to try and convince you to watch Jojo. I literally think that turns people off to Jojo more than anything else. So I'll just tell you, if you're sort of kind of interested, sit through one of the parts. If you don't like it, I don't blame you. Many people don't. Anyways, it has some of the wildest abilities in any manga, which is where it amassed such a wide appeal amongst other things. The popularity of Jojo, though gaining a lot of notoriety from memes and viral videos, can be based mainly on its wholly unique power system. Stand abilities. These abilities, named stands, are what propelled the series to be an icon of Japanese anime. Starting with part 3, these abilities push the story into territories viewers just couldn't find anywhere else. Sure, they are buff men, but there could be one opponent with one ability that can completely wipe them out. And battles weren't these huge giant things, they're actually usually small, unnoticeable, and taking place in a fraction of time. And because of this, stands have their own, weird, childish charm to them. It's like rock, paper, scissors, gun.
I am making a point here.
You could have a stand that just cheers for you and motivates you. Or you could have a stand that puts things back together if they were broken. Or it could be like that glitch in Mario 64 on Tall Tall Mountain where you upwarp from a body of water to another. These fights are often a lot more tense than when you're just firing key blasts and being like, hey, I hope this works. And many, even if they don't like JoJo, recognize that this series have some of the most bewildering and overpowered abilities in all of anime. Because so many are cerebral or hard to understand used once and used within a specific context, how strong they actually are is a bit confusing. When we get to the end of each JoJo part and each of the villains reveal themselves, some of the most powerful and catastrophic abilities in all of the show are made known. So I'm gonna give you a little spoiler warning. You could Zawardo the video. You could click this timestamp in King Crimson to when I stop talking about it. Or you could hit that gear icon 2 times the video and Made in Heaven. That was a very creative way to spoil everything. I'm sure you've heard of Dio. They never shut up about Dio. Dio's ability, and Jotaro's, is the world. An ability that lets them stop time for 5 seconds, freezing everything around them except them. Yoshikage Kira has the ability of Killer Queen and Bites the Dust, where it will reset time if conditions are met. And typically the conditions are if you pose a threat to Kira. So it could make him invincible. Part 5's Diavolo and his stand King Crimson can erase 10 seconds, and he also has Epitaph, an ability to see into the future. Part 6's villain Pucci and his stand Yoshi's Woolly World can accelerate time until the universe ends, resets, and puts you back at the point where you were. I'm still reading Part 7. No. Not even gonna try. In short, within the stories, these abilities are insane because they really put the main characters into positions of helplessness. Because no matter how strong any one ability is, being unable to act in the plane of time is probably one of the most strong and overpowered abilities ever. So, is this it? Is a Jojo ability one of the strongest abilities in fiction? No, because there's a character that has an ability that does all of these alone. It's Adam Sandler from Click. I've had this Click DVD next to my Jojo volumes, and I think it was just sort of destiny for me to make a video on it. Or just like to organize my garbage, I don't know. So the movie is horrible. Watch it as a crash course to see just how horrible the world got, and you're like, oh, it makes sense. Yeah, apparently first word about this movie came when they thought that this was him taking his acting career seriously.
When did you get boobs?
Anyways, what we're really concerned with is this movie's plot device. Sandler-san's stand ability, Click. Basically, he walks in on a Christopher Walken when he wishes he had more time in his life to do the things he wanted. And the God of Death, aka Christopher Walken, grants him the universal remote, and it becomes a Christmas Carol Back to the Future, except really bad. However, even though the movie's plot is something you've probably seen done better elsewhere, and the movie itself is offensive and not well put together, the universal remote is one of the strongest abilities in all of fiction, and I hate it too. So what does it do? Well, it actually is tied to Adam Sandler's character, Michael Newman. I checked in on the lore. Yeah, spoiler alert if you didn't want to see the end of the movie. The whole movie is apparently a dream where he goes and revisits his life if he had this power, but then he wakes up right when he was about to receive this power. Or is it merely a mechanic of the device? We'll get back to that. So what is so powerful about this? Well, first, this remote can stop time seemingly endlessly by the user using this remote. It doesn't have any limits like Dio or Jotaro. It also has the function of a universal remote. It can slow down time, can change the language of those speaking, can mute things in the physical world, can rewind to revisit a moment in the user's life, can change the physical makeup of things in the real world, and it can accelerate time. So yeah, kind of a lot. There are a couple of logical conclusions that can be made based off of the canon. Like I said, this ability is tied solely to Sandler-san. At a point in the movie, he tries to destroy the ability, but since it's drawn from his will, it always returns back to his hand. Next, Sandler-san can change positions in paused time. Though it's never explored, this means he could seemingly move any distance in that pause time, then unpause, and to a normal person, it would seem like he's warping. Another huge thing is he can manipulate matter in pause time, making this ability devastating. Also, many of the physical alterations that he can make to the world seem to only be through his perception. Now, while many of these are used as gimmicks for the comedy of the movie, he can actually change the language to the English dub, which can be used for information for whatever strategy he wants. A big weakness of this ability, however, is he cannot rewind time. All he can do is replay events that he was in at a point in his life, which, if used in battle, he could actually revisit any number of points in the battle and survey his enemy, all while to them, it looks like a moment of time is passing. Finally, there is a huge caveat to the remote and his time acceleration. Click remembers the habits of its user. So much so, if the user decides to skip so much of their life, the remote will remember. In the movie, Sandler-san's character uses the time acceleration to fast forward to the point when he achieves a work promotion. The way to activate this ability is to fast forward and have a preconceived idea of the point you want to get to, which can be tremendously devastating for any of his opponents. This gets us into the fighting potential of Click and Sandler-san. As we said, he can manipulate things in pause time, which opens up a ton of Sandler time attacks. This functions similarly to Breath of the Wild stasis tricks, as he can instantly deliver damage to objects and stack their strength. And we get confirmation that the attack is more effective in pause time when he says,
Was he hit by a train or something?
meaning any defense or stamina any of his opponents would have pretty much get nullified by this ability. That pretty much sums up all of Sandler-san's attacks and the Click ability's efficacy. Let's see how it stacks up against Jojo villains and their time warping attacks. Dio and Jotaro would be completely outclassed if they faced Sandler-san. All he has to do is stand outside their stand's range and wait for their time stop ability to run out. Yoshikage Kira is a bit tougher, simply because Kira benefits from his ability and his own nature of staying hidden from his enemies. Because this ability is a function of the narrative, Sandler-san would still win. At the end of part 4, Kira puts our heroes in a checkmate with Killer Queen activating Bites the Dust. It functions when someone tries to find out information on who Kira is, effectively making it so he can stay out of sight and away from any of his enemies. But because Sandler-san has a closed caption ability with the universal remote, he could be able to read who is speaking and confirm if it's Kira. So another one bites the dust. Then there's King Crimson. It may seem at first that they both have a time skip ability, but that would be a huge mistake. King Crimson has two main abilities: Epitaph, which lets him see 10 seconds into the future, and Time Erasure. A big note is those affected by Time Erasure see the effective lapse in time. Sandler-san does something completely different, however. When he skips forward to another point in time, it's actually that two Sandlers are created. We'll label this one the de facto Sandler, whereas this one is placeholder Sandler. De facto Sandler experiences times when he leaps from one point to another, and that's all he perceives. Whereas there's placeholder Sandler that sits in during the skip time to fill in for Sandler. This makes it seem weak, as all the things that would affect Sandler regularly would affect placeholder Sandler, so when he skips forward in time, he would notice changes to his body. But there is a key purpose for placeholder Sandler, and it's actually one of the strongest parts of this ability. What Sandler-san does when he fast forwards in time is he sets a goal for placeholder Sandler and moves to the point in time when that goal is achieved. It would actually be more accurate to say that placeholder Sandler is a vessel for destiny. It is a being purely made up of determination towards a specific goal, but only the goal that's specified. This would make the ability one of the most powerful. I completely forgot about King Crimson. I mean, maybe if he got close to Sandler-san before he realized he had time erasure? But then all he'd have to do is look in deleted scenes! Is there nothing that can stop him? Even Pucci and his ability Yoshi's Woolly World, even if he used Made in Heaven, would not stand a chance. So, in short, this ability is invincible. Maybe. I did say the movie's one of those it was all a dream type scenarios, but at the end of the film, it's a bit ambiguous what happens. The remote reappears in front of Sandler-san, and he has to make a choice whether he wants to reuse it again. This means, after the user dies with the click ability, they're reset back to Bed Bath & Beyond, making it so the user could not experience death, living in a complete loop of their life. This is the most powerful ability in fiction, if you took it out of context completely. That's sorta how I want to cap it off. I really just made an argument that Adam Sandler with his time manipulation ability is an all-powerful being that could beat any of your favorite characters. But that's only if you remove the part that this is a character from a dumb, offensive, heteronormative, insensitive Adam Sandler movie from the 2000s. And that's sort of my thought process when you match characters based solely on their objective feats.
I may be high off my own fumes. However, on the low end, this character is still pretty OP. If he had a rewind power though, that would be devastating. the most bewildering canonical feats I've... Whoa, Cat, did something just happen?